question. We are out of time. I'm just going to go through a few of your voting record items because you've made some statements about me, about what I've said, and saying that I have tried to accuse you of being less black than other folks, which I think is an unfair statement, but that's fine. I'm going to go through some of your voting record. Right. You voted to reject the Arizona and Pennsylvania electors on January 6th. Right. Donald Trump himself has implied that the reason that Pennsylvania was illegitimate is because of Philadelphia. That's a statement about African-American voters. Hold on a second. You don't believe that Donald Trump's rhetoric led to the storming of the Capitol, even though we've just had a January 6th commission that said it did. You said that you questioned the election itself. You voted against impeachment. You voted against creating an independent commission for the January 6th account. On voting laws, you defend voting laws that said getting rid of ballot harvesting is a good thing that we did. So you've defended the Florida voting laws.
You've actually laws in the country.
The Florida voting laws?
Florida election laws are the best election laws in the country. And go ask Arizona, go ask California, go ask New York. We do it the best.
Okay, all right.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about a fascinating but heated debate / interview between Joy Reid and Byron Donalds. And I got to tell you guys, this is must-see TV as they went back and forth with each other. And it became quite clear that Joy Reid is just in over her head in this interview with Byron Donalds. And she is nothing but a liberal media propaganda perpetuating and spewing lies on her platform. And she couldn't necessarily get away with it because this time she actually had pushback, right? She had somebody on the show that knows this stuff, that was not just a politician, that had a real job, right, before he got into Congress, who actually knows what he's talking about. And it did kind of go off the rails a little bit as Joy Reid had to resort to basically not letting Byron Donalds talk, interrupting him every time he answered a question, throwing low-key smears at him, pretending that he's not actually really black. You know what they do, right? When they don't have a real argument. So without further ado, I want to break down this debate between Joy Reid and Byron Donalds by first starting with their conversation on Social Security, in which Joy Reid just outright lies. Take a look.
Do you know that Social Security is going to be insolvent in 2035?
It is not going to be. That is not true. That is actually not true. No, it's actually not true.
Now, Joy,
it's actually not true.
It's actually not true.
But it's actually not true.
In the financial community,
that's actually not true.
That's actually not true. Will go insolvent.
That's actually not true.
Those are the facts.
That's not true.
Should we not prepare for that?
What the Republican Party and what the Tea Party have proposed is privatizing Social Security, which would actually subject Social Security to the whims of the market, which I don't think that people. That's not what they paid into. No,
if you look at the returns of the S&P 500.
That is not true.
2006, the returns of the S&P 500 since 2006.
You're saying so you support privatizing Social Security?
No, I want to explain to you. I am a financial professional. I'm securities licensed. Actually, I just lost my licenses because I'm not allowed to trade anymore because I'm a member of Congress. But let me assure you, if you look at the S&P 500 from 2006 until today, the growth rate in the S&P 500 would have more than taken care of Social Security, way more than the federal government has.
And each time that you had a crash, it would subject people's Social Security funds to crash. Hold on a second. So let me just hold on a second. We're not going to have a whole long thing on Social Security, but let me just be clear. You are in favor of privatizing Social Security.
No, I'm not in favor.
But you just argued for it.
I said you just brought it up, and I brought you the facts.
But you
are S&P 500.
So if a bill came forward to privatize Social Security, you'd be for it.
No, because what we should be doing.
Okay, then it's a moot point. Then it's a moot point.
It's not a moot point. You're trying to put words in my mouth.
But you just explained that the S&P would be a better return than Social Security.
Better returns.
So then you're for privatizing.
That is a fact.
Okay, so
don't cheapen privatization when the data is crystal clear that the returns would have been better.
Okay, you're for it. You've said that you're for it.
That means that it would have been a better situation than what we've seen to this point.
Yeah, so like Byron Donalds, I also used to be a financial professional, and my license expired as well, too, last year after being out of the industry for more than 2 years, okay? So I definitely understand exactly where he's coming from. These Social Security conversations are conversations that I used to have quite a bit with clients and talking about their retirement and their assets at 401ks, IRAs, etc., and what that is going to look like in an environment where we're unsure about the solvency of Social Security, because according to the Congressional Research Service, Social Security trust funds are expected to be insolvent or depleted by 2035, in which after that, Social Security will still be paid out, but beneficiaries are going to get 20% less than the benefits they should expect. About 20% less. It's going to be about that much. Not exactly, but about that much. So Byron Donalds is 100% correct on this, right? Social Security is projected, if we do nothing as of right now, to be insolvent by 2035. Maybe Joy Reid doesn't know the definition of insolvent, right? She thinks that American people don't know the definition of inflation. Yeah, she's just wrong. Okay, Byron Donalds is just factually correct. He's also factually correct about the S&P 500 and the returns that the S&P 500 has bought to investors since 2006. And essentially his argument is that, look, I'm not necessarily for privatization, but let's not act like that privatization would not have created better returns for retirees and Social Security beneficiaries than the federal government, in which he is 100% right and factual on that as well too. But Joy Reid, of course, tries to straw man him and try to say that he's for privatization, even though he actually never said that, even though he did argue that, hey, arguably privatization could be better if, the funds were invested in the S&P 500. I would argue with Byron that I think that if we were to privatize Social Security, the funds should be invested not in the S&P 500, but in the total stock market as a whole, just for more diversity and less volatility. Again, that's a conversation I would love to have with him. But we got to move on to the next part of his interview, in which Joy Reid melts down over the fact that Kevin McCarthy and the Republicans are giving the Democrats a taste of their own medicine in regards to removing Ilhan Omar, Adam Schiff, and Eric Swalwell from their committee assignments in retaliation for Democrats removing Marjorie Taylor Greene from her committee assignment for stuff that she said before she even was in Congress or elected or was running, and removing Paul Gosar from his committee assignments for putting out a cartoon in which they allegedly claimed that he was trying to kill AOC or something like that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and roll that clip.
Right.
So I want to start by just talking about, in the previous segment with Congressman Swalwell, we were just talking about the changes that are happening in the House under this new leadership. 3 people, including Congressman Swalwell, Ilhan Omar, and Adam Schiff, are being taken off their committees. Those who are being added, Congressman Santos is the one who made up his whole resume, allegedly, in New York. Paul Gosar, whose family have said he's a white supremacist, attended sort of meetings of white supremacy and got kicked off his committees because he tweeted out an anime of depicting him killing AOC, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and Marjorie Greene. They're getting back on committees. I just wonder what you think of that. Do you think that that is a good look for the Republican Party?
No, I think going back on committees is what should happen. Look, what we told Democrat leadership when they went down this pathway of removing members from committee is basically saying you should not do that, because if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. Let's be very clear. Ilhan Omar has said things that are reprehensible. Hold on. Let me finish. She has said terrible things about the Jewish community, so much so that resolutions had to go to the House floor about them, and they were watered down. With respect to Eric Swalwell and to the other gentleman, that's something for Speaker McCarthy to speak to in more detail, because he's going to make those decisions. But we were very clear in the 117th Congress. We should not be going down this pathway of saying, oh, that member said this, they got to be kicked off of committees.
But
that
that's
is
happening.
No. What we're doing is, so you did it. So now this is what happens. This is the response. Let's get back to the status quo of you pick your committee people, we'll pick ours, and we'll go from there.
Well, let me ask you this, because you're not getting back to that status quo. If you're kicking people off committees and you're saying it's literally for vengeance, you're now admitting it's just for revenge. That doesn't sound like getting back to the status quo. It sounds like using committee leadership for vengeance. But that's what you just said.
If you want to change the rules, then we'll live by your rules. I don't think we should do that. But if you want to change the rules that the House of Representatives has lived under since the beginning of the Republic, and now you're going to change them because you didn't like what somebody said?
I don't think that's a change in the rules. That's happened before. You know what? I'm letting you know.
Yeah, so Joy Reid clearly here is in meltdown mode because Republicans are not turning the other cheek anymore, right? Which is the main problem with the Republican Party. They turn the other cheek too much. This is politics. And Democrats set a precedent when they decided to remove Republicans from their committee assignments over frivolous things. Like, for example, removing Marjorie Taylor Greene because of things that she said before she was even in Congress. She wasn't even in Congress, and they punished her because of things she said and she wasn't in Congress when she said those things. Again, that is a precedent set by the Democrats that was very, very, very dangerous, and now they have to die by the sword, right? The pendulum has swung the other way, and now they want to boohoo, whine, and cry about it and say it's unfair. No, it's absolutely 100% fair because what they removed Marjorie Taylor Greene for was frivolous. So therefore, Republicans now have the right to remove Democrats for frivolous things, including the things that Ilhan Omar has said about the Jewish community, Adam Schiff, and his fake, false peddling of the Steele dossier, the Trump PP tapes. He should not be on any intelligence committee, considering how this guy has just been flat out wrong. He's been peddling propaganda. He also tried to request Twitter silence his political opponents and people he disagrees with. Eric Swalwell sleeping around with Chinese spies, banging Chinese spies. He shouldn't be on any intelligence committee as well, too, right? This is not something that we want to do, but we have to do it because Democrats said that, hey, this is the new rules, right? So we're going to play by those rules. And the way that you return back to the status quo is teaching the Democrats that, hey, if you want to live by the sword, you got to die by the sword. If this is the game you want to play, when we take power, all right, we're going to do the same thing you did to us that we're going to do to you. It's really that simple. And if you don't like it, then stop it. Right? If Democrats don't do this anymore, Republicans won't do it anymore. It's really that simple. But again, you know, Democrats don't like a taste of their own medicine, evidenced by the fact that Joy Reid here thinks that it is so wrong. Oh, you can't do this in revengeance. You're just doing this for revengeance. Yeah, exactly. I have no problem saying and stating that. Right? Have no problems with it. The next segment that we got to move on to is Joy Reid confronting Byron Donalds about him being nominated for leadership from the Freedom Caucus, in which she basically asked him, was he a diversity pick for Speaker? Take a look.
Because you got into it back and forth with a fellow Congresswoman who was critical of the nomination because it definitely looked like they were looking for a response to Hakeem Jeffries in you.
No, that was not any.
Because you've literally been there for one term, so you've never been in leadership. I'm asking you the question.
I'm answering.
That's what.
Am I allowed to
And the
answer?
reason I'm asking that, I'm just going to ask you this
All right,
question,
go ahead.
is one of the things that, I don't know that you said it, but members have said, is that they wanted to highlight the diversity of the conference. There are 4 African-American members in the House caucus, the Republican caucus. There are 56 members in the Democratic caucus. So just, it's more diverse. There are more African-American members just that are House committee ranking members. They're at the same number that are actually members of the entire Republican House caucus. Right. So do you not believe that the idea was to make a diversity statement by nominating him?
Well, actually, first, that was not the idea. Because I was in the room when the decision was made by people who chose to nominate me. That never came.
And you've still not explained how you were qualified. You've never been in leadership.
Are you going to let me answer your question?
Sure,
or you
tell
want
us.
to talk over me? Okay. Number 2, now let's go back. The reality is that a lot of members actually do believe in my ability to lead. They do. Am I to be despised for my youth because I've served one term? When members know that I have the ability to engage other members through the conference? But it's even bigger than that. Listen, we were at an impasse last week in our speakership elections. We got that done. Kevin McCarthy is now Speaker of the House. At the same time, I was working with members on both sides of our conference to make sure that we can get the job done, and we did. And that's the only thing that matters.
Yeah, so again, I love how Joy Reid mentions criticism of Byron Donalds from Cori Bush, but doesn't go into details about what she said, because essentially she called Byron Donalds a representation of white supremacy, right? Nominating a black Republican is white supremacy. I would have loved to see Joy Reid address that. And I think that Byron Donalds should have turned that back around on her and asked her, do you think that nominating a black man, a black Republican, to lead Congress is white supremacy? Do you really believe that? But again, here we have Joy Reid not letting her guest answer the question, right? Not letting him talk, not letting him speak, speaking over him. And it's just funny to me because Joy Reid all of a sudden is concerned about diversity hires, right? She wasn't concerned about diversity hires when it came to Kamala Harris. What are Kamala Harris's qualifications for being vice president? Right? I mean, seriously, right? What is her qualifications? Because senator is not an executive position, okay? I guess you could say, well, she was attorney general, but she was not a governor, right? She's never been an executive of a state, okay? And most presidents of the United States, a lot of them, at least in the last 100 years, they've had some governor experience, some actual executive experience. What makes Karine Jean-Pierre more qualified than John Kirby? right? Because if you compare John Kirby's resume and Karine Jean-Pierre's resume, I don't think that Karine Jean-Pierre is more qualified than John Kirby, who happens to be a straight white man. What about Ketanji Brown Jackson? What makes her more qualified than her peers to be on the Supreme Court? Joy Reid never questioned the qualifications of those people to say, well, what makes them qualified? Are they diversity hires? Even though the Democrats have come out here and overtly told us that, yeah, these are diversity hires, right? We're hiring them because of who they like to sleep with, whether or not they like their genitalia. We're hiring them because of their skin color. We're hiring them because of, their genitalia, what's in their pants. They've come out here and explicitly stated that we're not hiring them based off any real qualifications and experience. We're hiring them based off whether or not they check woke diversity boxes. She doesn't seem to have any issues with that, but now all of a sudden she has issues with diversity hires, right? Or diversity picks. It's amazing how that works, especially considering the fact that Joy Reid is a diversity anchor, because she clearly, according to her ratings, is not performing as well as her peers, but yet she still has a job for whatever reason when she should have been fired. But she's only there because she's a black woman, and that's it. Right? If she wasn't a black woman, she would have been fired a long time ago. She would have went the same way as Brian Stelter, right? So I'm just saying, it's just hilarious to watch Joy Reid in this interview here, and she does this every single time she debates a Republican, is that she never lets them talk, she never lets them speak, she just talks over them, and she just lies, and spews nonsense. It's almost kind of pointless going on her show, but shout out to Byron Donalds for actually doing it, right? For going on that network and confronting her in her lies and her BS, and I think he did a great job, and I hope to see him go back on the show and continue to confront her on her BS. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.